Hey everyone, welcome to Jabbering Jawas podcast with Joey Clark and,
Will, the thrill, Stafford.
or as we like to be called, Joey One Kenobi and Will Sith. Hope you guys are all doing well. It's the kickoff to the holiday season. It's also the kickoff to flu season, so make sure you get flu shots. And whenever the COVID shot comes out, one of them too, as long as it's not evil
I'll say it's been
microid controlling device.
flu
Um,
season since March, bro.
Anyway, but I hope you're all doing well. And obviously, we had an awesome episode of Mandalorian. There will be spoilers, so stay tuned. Unless you haven't seen it, go fucking watch it. And I already messed up, so if you're under the age of 18, young Padawan, go. No one wants you. We do. Just put your earphones on. But yeah. So it's one of those crazy times where it's towards the end of the year, but we're still getting Mando, which is awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
I know everyone was excited about last week's episode. You guys know my feelings on it. Um, I still kind of feel that way. But this week's episode or chapter, whatever you want to say, if you're a book reader, if you're a TV watcher, whatever you want, this to me was the best Mando chapter / episode to date. Um, I never cared for a particular character that was revealed again, but this truly gave him, I think, like the reason this character is so hyped up, it lived up to every expectation of what this character should be. And Boba Fett is the character, obviously, but to see him back and see him smashing Stormtrooper ass was an absolute highlight. And to see Stormtroopers be that bludgeoned is something I've always wanted to see, and they did it. Um, it's pretty much almost as epic as when the armor was smashing Stormtroopers, in her little armorer cave. This was.
Yeah, yeah. It was very similar, yeah. First of all, I want to say Robert Rodriguez directed this episode, and I wasn't expecting that. I don't know. It just, I don't know why it surprised me. It's like, I was like, oh, Robert Rodriguez? But it made sense when I rewatched it because Robert Rodriguez is really good at those action sequences. And especially when you think of like all his like Dust Till Dawn and like Once Upon a Time in Mexico and all that kind of shit. Even Spy Kids. Um, he's just really good at those like kind of action pieces between like multiple people or whatever, and they're like the back to backs and going around them as they're like fighting that kind of shit. So I'm like, he did a really good job on those, and just the episode in general. Yeah, like I remember the week before with Ahsoka, you texted me, and you're like, you didn't like it, and I was like, oh really? Okay, that's fair, I guess. And I can see why people don't. And then you texted me with this one, and you were immediately like, oh my god, this is amazing. I was like, oh shit, really? Okay, guess I need to watch this right now. And yeah, I mean, you start the fucking episode and like they get to Tython and immediately you just see Boba's ship. What was it, Slave One? Yeah, you see it fucking coming down, and you're like, oh, okay, just like that. He's just gonna, because we were speculating about that on the last episode. It's like they're not just gonna show Boba Fett and then he's not gonna come back this whole time, right? And they think they even tried to. I think they tried a little red herring on us when he came out the ship and we didn't see him at first. And there was like somebody like in a hood and stuff, and we're like, oh my god, could that be the Jedi? I don't think anybody really thought that because you should recognize the ship, right? But yeah, I mean, the episode from beginning to end was incredible. It was fun to watch. It was different because I know that was a complaint for a lot of people with this season is that it was kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, we go to this place, we talk to somebody or do something real quick, and then we get tasked to go to another place. And now it's kind of like we hit that climax and things are ramping up. And like now, I mean, yeah, from beginning to end, dude, that shit was crazy. And I thought it was interesting. Two of my favorite episodes this season, because I'll probably put this up here. I might put this above the one where they introduced Bo-Katan. But we had talked about before this came out about episode lengths and like, oh man, I hope we get longer episodes, blah blah blah. But the two best episodes so far have both been like the 30-minute ones, which I find kind of funny.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of interesting, right? Um, but yeah, this is really good. I'm glad that they kind of changed up the formula. And yeah, seeing Boba Fett finally in his prime, and I know it's a character you didn't really like that much, and everybody else kind of held on to that character because he just looked so cool, and he kind of started the whole Mandalorian thing. We can talk about that because I guess technically he's kind of not a Mandalorian, so it's kind of funny. But um, yeah, it's just exciting all around, man. Such a good episode.
Yeah, especially with you saying, he started the Mandalorian thing. I remember when they first said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make it to where neither of them were Mandalorians," and I was kind of upset because it's like the only reason we have Mandalorians is because of these characters. So it felt really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And watching this episode, I'm kind of glad they took that and went and kind of still included them in the history, at least Django. And it seems like it's rubbed off on Boba Fett, maybe some of the teachings, because I
Yeah,
guess he was a foundling and fought in the Mandalorian. It's like, oh, okay, this kind of helps. But the thing that confuses me is like, when was the Mandalorian Civil War? Because Django didn't seem that old, so it must have happened fairly recently before
mm-hmm.
the prequels era. So I'm kind of curious if we're ever gonna get. It would be cool just to see a comic or a book from the perspective of Django on that. I think it opens up a big opportunity to explore that character some more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need a series. It'd be kind of cool because what was the Mandalorian Civil War like? Uh,
I thought that maybe in Clone Wars in passing they talked about it, like the reason why Satine was in charge and stuff. I believe had to do with that. Maybe like their father or something was a part of it.
Potentially, because I know that there was discussion about a little bit, but I'd have to go back and watch. But
Mm-hmm.
it would be curious to see from his point of view because maybe something that happened there made him want to leave that life.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the Death Watch and like kind of those different factions probably came out of that, most likely.
Yeah.
So I think it would be interesting, even if they did like a real like limited series or something. I think it'd be cool to see kind of that stuff explored. And I think that's why they're including all this because I think I'm not sure if they will, but I think they want to have the possibility to explore that stuff. And I'm perfectly fine with that because, like we said, the kind of some of the problems with the sequel trilogy is that they didn't leave enough like threads open really that they could explore other things. It was very like go here, go here, go here, stay contained within this and this. And at least with this one, they're giving us like more lore, like other possible like things that happen here and here. Like I know like a lot of people weren't that high on like maybe the first 4 or 5 episodes of this series so far, like this season. But they have given us a lot of lore to where there's a lot of things we can explore. We can explore what the fuck happened on Coruscant, between people who we weren't following in Revenge of the Sith. What happened? I mean, if any of those rumors are true, what happened with Mace Windu? What happened with Boba Fett and Jango Fett before those things? After, where was Baby Yoda? Where was Ahsoka? I see a lot of people talking about that now. They're pretty similar in age. You know, Baby Yoda would have been born like maybe a few years, like 5 or 6 years before Ahsoka was, which means they're probably younglings at the same time at the Jedi Temple. So it's like, where was she? Where was Baby Yoda? Because he was probably like a toddler basically at the time. And I'm sorry, Grogu. I apologize. Um, but yeah, he was like basically a little toddler at that time. So it's like, where were all these people? So there's a lot of things they can explore just from things that they mentioned alone.
Yeah, I think it obviously sets. I think it does set up the potential. I don't think we'll get a series out of it. It would be cool, but I think even just doing like a comic book run that is before everything, I think would be awesome. They've explored things in comics really well. I think it's just if something big comes up, I hope they do a series with it. I think it might be it's I think it'd be cool to do like a Civil War Mandalorian series.
Mhm.
Probably animated, I would say. I think it'd be really cool and maybe even have Favreau attached to produce it or because there's a lot about the culture that I think is worth exploring, and it might also help us better understand what Din is versus what other Mandalorians are like.
Yeah.
And it could maybe lend itself to seeing maybe a younger Kenobi and Satine. I think that's
And
part of it, right?
that'd be cool. And I mean, there's always been those rumors about that one kid who people really, really think is Obi-Wan's kid, but who knows? Uh, uh,
Like both of them to not be.
yeah, he's not the coolest character. I'll say that. And I mean, they even talked about Mandalore the Great a little bit in this. So there's so many Old Republic ties. We could see the Mandalorian Jedi Wars maybe at some point, which included like Revan and Malik from KOTOR and all this other shit. Like, so they're leaving all these, and we know that Filoni wanted to put Revan in Clone Wars. Like they already rendered that shit. They just didn't finish it, you know. So it's like he wanted to do it. I know that's he has these things in the back of his mind. He obviously like, okay, what can I do within the realm of this show? They just went to Tython, which was in the Old Republic. So it's like they're trying to put these things in here so they can possibly explore them later in other properties. Like I'm sure.
What did you think of the planet?
And I'm glad you brought that up. That was probably the one thing about the episode that I didn't love. So it like where I don't know if maybe something happened to the planet, but like when I think of Tython and like the Old Republic when you play those games, it's like really lush, like huge area. There's like these big ass like temples and shit, and almost like these they had like it was real technological too. They had like these bridges and like other things like they were built around there, and it's like um yeah, it was just a little weird that they just kind of went to like this kind of barren. There's like some bushes and shit, and that's like it, and then some rocks, and this one kind of like part of a temple. So that was one thing about it. I was like, oh, this is Tython now. I'm like, that's kind of it's a little disappointing. But so when it first started, I was like, oh, that's Tython. Okay. Hmm. But then Boba Fett flew in, and I was like, okay, this guy's pretty cool. But that's probably the only thing about the episode that I didn't like. But that's only because I'm thinking about how Tython was on the game and everything. I'm not sure if that's really canon or anything, so they might have a different idea for what Tython was or is, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there because the thing that like at first when I saw, I was like, "What the hell?" At first, I thought they were going back to Navarro, but I'm like, "This planet looks different." And I was like,
Mhm.
and then because I thought it was Navarro because in the little like still that they show, it was,
Thumbnail, they're showing Gina Carano. Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh fuck, they're going back again." And
Yeah, are
then
they gonna do this and go to Tython? Yeah, I was confused.
and I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I agree with you on the planet surface. Like, it might have just maybe everything crumbled like thousands of years ago and it's just grown over. But I
Mhm.
wish we would have gotten more of that sense where there was like ruins or something.
Yeah, it
Because
could have
I
been.
feel like a little bit of a fan film in the sense where it feels like, oh, well, we can't afford to like build out a location, so here's some other kind of terrain. And it reminded me of that clip for this one like Ahsoka fan film trailer thing, and it like not
Okay,
to
I think you
bash,
showed me that.
but it's like it did feel a bit fan filmy in that sense where it didn't have a Star Wars aesthetic.
Yeah, like that's what bothered me about it. It just didn't look like Tython to me. It looked like they kind of went to in Captain Marvel, there's that whole last scene when they're in that desert flying around, and it's just a very barren, like whatever kind of area. That's what it seemed like to me. Like they went to some random desert or something somewhere and like
In
built
California.
a yeah, like it's somewhere in California and just built like a part of a temple out of this thing, and I was like, okay, there we go. Like it just wasn't like I'm even looking at pictures of Tython right now just because I wanted to like refresh it in my mind. And yeah, it's just very like this forest and like just huge trees. And I'm like, sure, maybe the surface of the planet at some point got like devastated for some reason. There's like Darth Nihilus who was in KOTOR 2, who literally would like eat fucking the energy from planets and shit. So I doubt they're gonna make that canon because that's like way too much. But yeah, I mean, who knows?
Character. Well, I love the look in the backstory of that character. So
Yeah, I'm like, it's his powers are fucking insane. So I doubt that they would make that whole thing canon. But who knows? Maybe they are, and they're like, yeah, let's find someplace barren because we want to do that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's definitely the only thing that really threw me off, and the fact that it was very, the whole episode was very self-contained to like literally that area, and they did some cool things there, but it's the fact that they didn't really go anywhere else, and I guess I was kind of expecting a little bit of that. I think it's the same thing I felt about with the episode before with Ahsoka. I thought that we're gonna get like this kind of cool forest planet where they're gonna have to like navigate their way through and find Ahsoka somewhere. And that's kind of one of the things I talked about when there's limitations to TV shows, unfortunately, in live action. Like it's good for introducing characters, but like you said, it sometimes make more sense to do animation because you can just animate these, you know, crazy like alien planets. Unfortunately, when you're here, unless you just add some CG in after, you're working with whatever landscapes that you are going to be around you. So
which is
yeah,
what this is the time where I wouldn't have minded some of George's CGI.
yeah. I'm like, honestly, that's what I was thinking when I was watching the episode. I'm like, so they could have thrown some CG in here, like just some ruins in the background or something. Like I could accept that if the planet was barren. Honestly, if I would have seen just a little bit more of what was going on with Tython, because
Or
like
an
I said,
understanding of why it is the way it is.
something, and I know that they probably wouldn't be able to figure that out, like those characters. But I don't know. I don't know how they would have explained that. I just think that maybe having some ruins or something in the background would have just helped a little bit.
Yeah. And I think maybe if you didn't show so much of it, or just a little bit here and there, or
Hmm.
even a little bit of color grading just to give it a more eerie kind of feel, because if this place has so much history, there should be something more to it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the reason I kind of liked, um, I forget what's the canon version. Is it Moraband or is it Koraband?
Korriban is, you mean where the Sith are?
Yeah, because I can't remember which.
Should be Korriban, I believe. It's still Korriban. Huh?
Because
They
I know.
changed things. I think it's Korriban.
Let me look it up real quick. But even before they fell into the um, where the Sith temple was, you got this sense that it was kind of eerie. There's something dark here in the wasteland before they fell through.
Yeah, and then that was in Rebels, right? That's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm like, sure, it was pretty barren there too, but there was like some huge ruins, like just these things that they had to find, and it's like you could tell that it was very Star Wars, you know. And even thinking about Korriban and like other stuff that it's been in, it's always been this really barren, like desert kind of planet. But then they had like these huge, like Naga Sadao statues and fucking I forgot the one that Yoda had talked to in Clone Wars, but like they had huge statues of like all these like old, really old Sith lords, and even like of the ancient Sith themselves, like they would hold the race. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I would like to see something a little more. Maybe they'll have this sometime later, and there's more to the planet than we saw. Because like I said, they kind of stuck around that same area, just like that little kind of the Seeing Stone, and then the little surrounding areas right by it. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be more to it in some other episode down season 3, season 4. I don't know, but we'll see.
Kind of hoping for is that eventually they'll kind of show more of it, because
Maybe
it's
there's stuff.
things where it's like I don't feel like they would just introduce it just to go there and then just leave it, unless I don't know, there's some other series that touches upon it, like an Old Republic.
Yeah, it's looking at like there might be another series, and like I said, unless there's stuff underground, that's possible. Maybe a lot of this stuff got buried when it got destroyed or something, or just over the years it just kind of like sand and all this other shit went over it. I don't know. The planet got abandoned for some reason. Who knows? But I hope that we get some sort of explanation about Tython like that. I hope it's not just a, well, our budget didn't call for it, so we just went here and we'll try to fix it later at some other point. I don't know. I'm hoping that there's a reason that it's that way, but we'll see.
I feel like it's the budget one.
And just this whole like just filming the way they have to. Well, no, because they finished this in 2019, right? Did they finish filming this in 2019, or was it still in 2020? This
No,
season,
2020, I think.
it's in 2020. Okay, so I mean that could have been an issue, I guess.
Yeah, because it would have been cool, even if you would have just said it more like dusk, or like when the sun is about to set, just something,
Yeah,
give it a little more appeal, I guess.
but that I get exactly what you mean. It is very fan filmy in a way, because it's like you think about most people who make like a Star Wars video or something, like they're gonna go out to like some desert in California or something and like have a lightsaber fight out there or something, because it's like it's easier to film out there and you can kind of do stuff to it after that. But yeah,
Maybe when I do my Star Wars thing, I'll just do it animated then, even though I would like to cast it live action. Or just color grade the shit out of it, like, oh yeah, this has got a green sky.
yeah, I think that might have helped too, honestly. Because yeah, just the original feeling of Tython was just so. It felt like this was like a planet where the Force was strong and shit, and like a lot of Jedi would gather. Like, and I know that it was a game, so they kind of had to make them feel really, because you either start on Korriban or you start on there, and they had to make them really feel very different. Like this is the good planet, so really green and like blue sky, and then you go to Korriban, it's like red ash sky and like looks like bars or some shit. So it's like, yeah, I get they probably pumped it up a little bit for the game as well, but who knows what they're gonna do with these things in canon? So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope they show more of it. And I get like your expectation from the game, but I also have to think, it has been, depending on how they frame it in time, it's been over 1,000 years or whatever since. So things can happen, things can break down, especially if no one is there anymore. So I can get why it's so barren. But again, I think it's one of those things, and it's a nitpicky thing. Like the story itself, and we'll get into that, I think is overall solid, and I really enjoyed it. So I can forgive these little shortcomings. It's just it would have made it that much better to add those aesthetic type things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like even with the last episode where it's like the aesthetics weren't there, and I felt in some ways the story was kind of lacking. So that's why I just didn't care for the last one before this. But this one, at least the story was really strong, and they gave us a lot. Um,
Yeah,
I'm curious, what did you think about was it Fennec Shan?
yeah, Fennec Shand.
What did you think of her in this? Because it seemed really weird how she went from, and I get she's essentially kind of like this rogue bounty type of person, but how she went from wanting to kill and hurt the Mando and the child to being on their side so quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Star Wars though. In a lot of things, it'll be like, oh, this person wants to kill you, but then you like save them, or I mean, he didn't even save him like Boba Fett did, but I guess because Boba Fett wanted to help him, she did. Because I guess she felt like she owed Boba Fett. But I mean, I will say, I'm very glad that Ming Na Wen is still in it because there's always been a big fan of her. She's awesome. But yeah, the character itself, I mean, I like the character, but I did think it was when I was watching it, like a weird kind of 180. I'm like, she was trying to kill him like hardcore before, like. But yeah, I guess it's just because I feel like I owe a debt to Boba Fett because he saved me, and that makes me think even more that Boba Fett probably won't betray him. And I do think that they are setting this up as being possibly like his crew, because like you said, John Favreau wanted Boba Fett to be the Mandalorian. Like that's what he planned on. That's what he wanted to make in the first place. So I think this is his way of putting Boba Fett, like having his Boba Fett show that he wanted to do, basically. So I think he does plan on having him be a good guy or somewhat a good guy. And yeah, man, I am, and I think it makes sense. They're all like bounty hunters and shit, so it kind of makes sense they would like work together. It does, but it doesn't make you make the question of they're bounty hunters, so there's always something they kind of want. Will they stay loyal after like all is said and done? Who knows? So we'll see.
What do you think of her cybernetics? I thought that was kind of cool just to see more of, that at play and how they
Well,
work on people.
well, I saw some people like online who were like confused. They're like, "What? How's he do that?" And I'm like, "Do you know? I remember like Lillian, what was it? Return of the Jedi. Like Luke had that shit in his hand. Like, and it's interesting to finally see it on not somebody's arm for once. Like not a replacement hand, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And then the people are like, "Oh, don't they need like special dots or something?" I'm like, I mean, Boba Fett's been around for a long time now. He might know how to do this shit. Like so much we don't know, you know. So he probably took her into like some tent somewhere, and he's like, "Don't worry, I got you." Installed that shit. But it was really cool to see that. Like, oh, they can replace whole like organs and shit. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
I
So
wonder to what extent that actually is, like how much that actually works. Like, how much can you change with cybernetics, or how much is used on her?
hmm well, I think our biggest example is probably Vader because he needed something to help him breathe. He literally lost all of his arms and legs. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? I mean, his entire body was burnt from head to toe. So I mean, he was essentially half robot, basically, like half droid. Uh, so I don't. I mean, there's Grievous. When you think about it, he was literally just like a heart, basically, right?
Well, yeah, because I guess he was in one of the comics. It's revealed that he started out as mostly an organic creature, and then over time he upgraded himself.
Oh yeah,
Um,
because he wanted to be as strong as Jedi's and shit, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So, but essentially, he's like basically like a heart in the brain, I guess. It's basically like his face, and then like maybe like the top of his body, and then the rest is like cybernetics.
yeah, and I guess
So yeah, I guess that's the furthest we've seen. That anything further than that, I feel like, and you almost wonder actually. I saw people point out. I don't think this is the case, but it could be possible that perhaps the Dark Troopers aren't just droids. There may be like whatever they're cloning or whatever, they put those organic matter people or whatever inside of them, maybe. But I personally think they're just droids. It's probably made out of Beskar and shit. That's what I think the Dark Troopers are. Some people were speculating it could be, oh, they're putting failed clones or whatever, like they put them inside there to pilot them or something. Who knows?
um, what did you? Well, I know since you just mentioned the Dark Trooper, I think so. There's been different variations of them. Like, I think there's like 3 or 4 different phases where the first one is like it does use they used like old clone, like decommissioned clone troopers basically, and they gave them a bunch of cybernetics, and then they started getting more to being like droids, and then there was one phase where they were enhanced with the dark side or something. So I'm curious if
Hmm.
that's what they were talking about, donor for the dark troopers with the child or Grogu.
I feel like the donor is for something bigger. Like I could see it maybe being for the Dark Troopers.
But Palpatine.
Yeah, something like that. Or maybe they're already trying to make the Snoke clone or whatever. Who knows? And that's what they need him for. Uh, but yeah, my only like seeing the Dark Troopers was cool. My only thing about that is probably the one other thing that kind of bothered me as one of those nitpick like back into my head things is like, so where the fuck are they later on? You know, did they all get destroyed at some point by like Mando or some other people in another series? Like, are they gonna keep coming back? And if they have another live action series, like, in which case, why didn't the First Order try using them? Why didn't we see any of that? Like, there's something like super like really wrong with them, so that they're like, oh, let's not use those anymore. Like, what's gonna be, because if they're as powerful as like what I read in terms of like what the Dark Troopers did in like those games and shit, why wouldn't they use them more? And when they turn into the First Order or whatever, so that was my only question that I had when I was watching those.
I think the thing with those, honestly, is I think they're all on that ship.
Hmm.
I think at some point that ship probably goes down, all of them get destroyed. And I
Yeah.
think there's enough, excuse me, enough separation between the Empire and the First Order that it almost seems in a lot of ways that Moff Gideon isn't. I almost wonder if he's really part of the Empire or if he's just using the Empire to meet his goals. I don't really know if he. It kind of makes me wonder if he really does have anyone that he's answering to, because it's not like he's hinting, or we don't have a hint of who he answers to.
Hmm.
I thought it might be Thrawn or even the Emperor, but I don't know. It seems weird, like he's kind of rogue, because I mean, there's
Yeah.
been ruthless Imperial leaders like Tarkin, but he seems fucking nuts. Like, especially when you hear that one. I know it was kind of meant to be funny, but um, he just took out his squadron, or a squadron, or he just killed this. I'm like, there hasn't been anyone I think that has done that much.
Hmm.
So it makes
Yeah.
me wonder what his motives are for doing certain things, and if he really is loyal to the Empire, or that's just a way to hide what he's really after.
I like I like the idea that we were talking about last week, where he is like kind of working on his own and he was a part of the Empire and he has knowledge of like these projects and everything, and he keeps kind of that title like Moff and all this shit, and he's taken the dark saber and he's been doing all these things, and now he thinks he's probably getting too big for his britches, and he's like, okay, well, you know what, I can take over the universe. I'm just gonna start, we were working on these dark troopers and I got the dark saber, and now I got this, that baby Grogu. I'm gonna use him for a donor for this and that. And I'm almost thinking that he has no idea that Palpatine is alive. He thinks that probably Thrawn is dead. He knows that like the Empire scattered, and he's like, I'm gonna gather them all together, and I'm gonna be the new leader. Because that is the one thing I was thinking about when I'm like, he could be under somebody, but every time we see one of his subordinates like addressing him or whatever, they're always addressing like him as kind of like their overall like leader. You know, there's that doctor who was making the recording from episode 4, and he was reporting directly to Moff Gideon. He wasn't like sending a video to anybody else, or like reporting like, thank you my emperor or something like that. He wouldn't say any of that. So I think that honestly they're all working under Moff Gideon. They probably think that he's like all that's left or something, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll follow him basically. But I do think especially the way this season has been going, they're going to surprise us. And I can't tell you what that surprise would be because they you think sometimes you know what they're going to do, and then they kind of change it up on you. So I feel like he almost might not be killed by Mando in them, and he'll like flee or something, and Thrawn or Palpatine or somebody is going to be the one to kill him or something, or like, Moff, what are you doing? But apparently he's going to be in season 3, so we'll see. Or they'll appear, and he'll be like really just on in like his lowest right now. He just lost to these people, and maybe Thrawn or somebody will appear and be like, "Oh, so you got your ass kicked? Well, let me help you or something." I don't know.
Or if they have trouble fighting the Dark Troopers, if a light side Force user shows up to help finish them off?
Possible, because I don't think we're gonna see Ahsoka anymore at least during this season. Maybe not even during this show. There've been a lot of rumors of certain light side Force users that we might see. Pretty much rumors for every single one. And who's going to be playing them and blah blah blah. I do feel like that's might be where this is going to go, because I feel like Mando does have the Beskar spear. He can fight Moff Gideon, but I don't feel like he can fight Moff Gideon and all of the Dark Troopers. And as good as maybe Bo-Katan or somebody comes back, like as good as they are, if those things are made of Beskar, they're gonna have trouble trying to kill it. So they might need somebody who's like skilled with a lightsaber to help them.
Or multiple skilled with lightsabers because they hear the child's call.
Perhaps. Yeah, because he was there for a while. And I mean, I think we all knew that in that episode, nobody's going to show up during that episode. Like, there's no way they're going to hear that and just be like, whoa, hey, I jumped into hyperspace, came to come see. Like, I think we all kind of knew, like, okay, well, he's probably
Part of me was
Moff
hoping.
Gideon. Yeah, I mean, I know, but I'm like, I feel like there's no way that they're going to get there that fast. And then we know that Moff Gideon was tracking him. I did not expect Boba Fett to fucking fly in right there. I thought they were maybe going to get attacked by some stormtroopers, and then we get a surprise at the end. But they kicked that shit off with fucking like Boba Fett, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So,
what do you think of a New Republic fleet showing up to help? And that includes Luke Skywalker, Inferno Squad.
see, here's the thing: they keep throwing those guys in there, right? Those Republic officers. They keep throwing these guys in here, and I'm like, okay, that's cool if they keep like bringing them in here, but like, do they have a bigger purpose? And I mean, even Dave Filoni was playing one of them, and it's like, I feel like they have a bigger purpose. So all I'm saying is Mando, and now they're about to free, I forgot his name, but Bill Burr.
Yeah.
They're about to try and free him. And I'm pretty sure he's probably in a Republic prison or something, right? And those guys, yeah, they've already shown when they were chasing him and the Frog Lady, they've already shown that, like, okay, we're going to leave you alone because you did this and that and helped, this other Republic officer. So I'm almost like, I feel they're going to end up helping him in some way for sure. That just makes sense. They keep throwing them in there, and I'm like I said, these two don't set things up for no reason most of the time that I've seen. So we shall see.
I knew that they weren't just going to throw away those characters they introduced.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that they mentioned Bill Burr's character because I love Bill Burr and I always will.
Yeah.
And I would love to see him again. And I was trying to get an interview with him for Fantha Tracks, and I'm still going to try. I should just ask my contact that's best friends with him. But yeah, I really wanted to interview him to try and see if, like, hey, you gonna be in season 2? Because I had a feeling he might be. Anyway, but the name, I always forget it too, but it's Mayfeld. Yeah, I'm curious of where they're locking him up, and I wonder if they'll free anybody else that's there. But that's the thing, like, are they gonna recruit New Republic people in that moment, or are they gonna, like, tip off, "Oh, we're gonna be here"?
So another thing that they set up though was like Cara Dune and like how the dude left her like the Republic medal, right? And he wants her to join. And I almost feel like she won't go with them right away. Maybe she will. But I feel like maybe she won't go with them right away, and then maybe like last episode we'll get exactly what you were talking about, an Avengers moment, like an on your left moment, and then all of a sudden all these like fucking Republic ships start flying in, just as like Moff Gideon and the Dark Troopers think they're about to win. He's like, oh shit, damn it, and maybe he runs away with Grogu, and then him and Mando face off while everybody's fighting, you know, the Dark Troopers and the Stormtroopers and shit. So I think there's definitely potential for a really cool moment like that. I hope we get that. That'd be amazing. I hope they don't leave us off on like a cliffhanger or something. I hope not. Because this is a tough year. Please give us a resolution for the season.
Yeah, I think there'll be some type of cliffhanger. The one thing I hope it's not, I hope it's not Luke and it's like a Force Awakens moment. I hope we get him.
I hope they don't do that again. I hope they would know better. He's just
But
gonna sit there.
do you think Moff Gideon has an actual Star Destroyer? Because I feel like he's got to have something bigger than that fucking cruiser that he's just hanging out on.
Well, he when they left, he was talking about to make sure to tell the doctor we have the donor. They're probably gonna go to, I'm assuming, a Star Destroyer. If they're not going to go to a certain planet, they're probably gonna go to an actual Star Destroyer. So that's what I think they're gonna go to.
Do you think he has a fleet?
Fleet. I mean, I don't.
A bunch of Republic ships against that one ship, they're fucked. But
well, then see, that's the thing, and I think that will make the moment, because I think if he has one big Star Destroyer, maybe a couple, and he's got Stormtroopers and Dark Troopers on those, and then we have Mando and like his kind of ragtag crew going against him, it's gonna be like, oh shit, this doesn't look good. And then right at the last moment, the fucking like Republic fleet comes in, and you're like, oh okay, shit, they're good. Like yeah, so I think that'd be a cool moment where it's like they look like they're up against insurmountable odds, and then bam, they fly in and help them. So
and we actually care, and it's not the Rise of Skywalker where it's like, what?
yeah, and then I think they have somebody like Cara Dune or somebody who goes to go get them. You know, that would be cool, and then she brings them back. As much because I did like your idea when we were talking about sequels. About it would have been cool if Ben could have gone back to like the planet where Leia was, seen her, and then kind of, I know I was a bad guy, and rallied them all together. Because one of my, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring up Avatar again because I always do. But if you haven't seen Avatar, I'm sorry. It's been out for like so long now. But one of the main characters, Zuko, he was a bad guy. He wants to help the good guys later on. So he goes there and he like has to try and convince them that he's good. And I would have loved to see a moment like that with Ben. Like, I've changed. I want to help. I need to help Ray. Blah blah blah. It would have been cool to see something like that instead of him just kind of running in and dying. But yeah. So that let's see a moment like that, because they already set it up where they obviously want Cara Dune to join the Republic fleet. So I feel like she'll be the one to kind of bring him there to help Mando out, while him and the bounty hunters and Bill Burr are all trying to fight the Dark Troopers. Whoever else he frees from the jail. I'd actually kind of like to see the from that prison episode. I'd love to see the. Well, did they didn't die? Did they? Did they get arrested again? The other ones that were in the prison, the girl that he had like dated or whatever. I forgot what the alien girl, and her brother.
Yeah, I like those two Twi'leks. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, like I thought they were cool characters. Now I like that there's history between her and Mando. Like I was like, oh, so I see Mando. Okay, that's what he's into.
Bill Burr goes, "Did you two make that thing?" Like, I love him so much. Like,
yeah, I remember that threw me off last season. I was like, is that the fucking Bill Burr? I was like, what? Oh man, yeah. I'm glad they're gonna bring him back. And then, like I said, there are a lot of surprises. What if they go to free Bill Burr or something, and they release some other character who's in there who we just weren't expecting. Like, what if just like I don't know, who else could possibly? What if like Han and Chewie are just randomly in fucking jail? I don't know. Would they do that? Like,
Might say that again.
what if like Han and Chewie are just randomly in jail or something? I don't know.
No, not at this time.
Or
It's the New Republic. I doubt it.
Sabine. I don't know.
She wouldn't be in jail. She'd be helping the New Republic. You know, if the Millennium Falcon just happened to show up, it wouldn't be the craziest thing because technically they're still under contract. So
I think if they do the thing where they have the fleet show up, I think they will sprinkle in some familiar ships in there, just like they did with Rise Skywalker, which was a cool moment. It was just kind of like a little too late for that moment. At least with this, there was like more setup. Like, okay, yeah, here comes we're gonna go get the Republic, blah blah blah. You know, Cara Dune's gonna try and join. They need help against Moff Gideon, blah blah blah. I think that'll definitely happen.
if Luke shows up, DH Mark Hamill or Sebastian Stan?
I feel like honestly they would probably go for Sebastian Stan #1 because we're already been talking about these planets and shit. So obviously they're not exactly busting the wallet open for the budget here right now, unfortunately.
What if they were saying all of that because they had a bigger, I think, budget this time, and they said that they were going to use it mostly on screen this time because they built the infrastructure. What if they had to save some of it for that de-aging?
It's possible. Yeah. And I mean Mark Hamill could do it. Like Mark Hamill, first off, he does like voice acting and shit, and that he has such a incredible range that he can do with his voice. Like it's insane. So I'm like, I would not doubt that he'd be able to play himself as a 20-year-old, like perfectly fine. 20, 30, what would he be, like 30s now? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he'd be probably rough. Well, yeah, he'd be at least 30.
Yeah. So I have no doubt he could do that. I feel like they would possibly go with Sebastian Stan only because he's already in, like, you know, the whole Disney, Marvel, Star Wars umbrella. And I mean, they already talked about they wanted to try and get people from Marvel and put them like in Star Wars and stuff. And they're already talking about having Kevin Feige working with them and all this other shit. So it's like, yeah, do they already have the list of all the people who are directing every episode?
Let me see if I can find.
I was surprised by Robert Rodriguez. I don't remember seeing that. Because I'm like, what if we go into one of these episodes and we see like Kevin Feige or something? It's like, should we suspect? Like, oh, they're gonna put Sebastian Stan in here. I don't know.
The only reason I don't want him, at least for this, I feel the reason I want Hamill to do it, and it's not just because I have a reverence for Luke. To me, the reason that I want it is because if they do a series, I'm okay with Sebastian Stan doing it. However, if it's just this one kind of moment thing, I want Luke or Hamill to do it just to give him a true send off that is worthwhile and meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time he should play the character should be under good circumstances. Give him some really good, solid lines. Give him some cool interactions. And if possible, if there is a time and moment to put Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker together, I think it would be with him.
That would be really cool to see, actually.
After that, if they decide anything, as long as Sebastian Stan, here's the thing, he might look the part, but if he doesn't feel the part, I don't want him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, that would be my only worry is, yeah, I've seen the people do their little Photoshops and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure that they kind of just put like his face on Luke's like head. So it's like, yeah, obviously he's gonna look a lot like Luke, but he just kind of put his face, and he has similar features. I'll give him that. But yeah, if embody Luke, because I know that was some people's problem with Ahsoka. They didn't feel like she quite embodied that at this point, and like I get that, and I think even more so than Ahsoka, Luke's pretty big deal. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
It is Rick Famuyiwa and then John Favreau for the last two.
Oh, he's doing the last two. Interesting.
Well, Rick is doing the 7th, and then John the last.
Oh, okay.
This is Wikipedia, so I'm not.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is to be
to be determined.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is Rick Famuyiwa directed an episode in the season, so that would make the most sense, I guess, if he did the next one, because I wouldn't think they would have him do the last.
Yeah.
It's got to be Favreau or Filoni, but I would say Favreau most likely.
Definitely so much that could happen. Like I honestly don't know, because like I said, after episode 5, I think those first like 5 episodes or so, we kind of knew what was basically going on. It's like, okay, he's trying to find a Jedi to do this and that, and he's probably gonna go find Ahsoka. We all knew that. After that, it was kind of left up in the air, and then episode 6 was really fucking good, because I'm like, I think we assumed that, oh yeah, Moff Gideon's probably gonna find them at some point and take the child because of what Giancarlo Esposito has said in interviews. But we just didn't know when that was gonna happen and what else was gonna happen. And like you told me when you texted me, you're like, yeah, like nothing you would expect happened in this show. I'm like, okay. I did not expect him to deploy the fucking Dark Troopers that fast. I thought they were like still a work in progress. I didn't think he's gonna be like, yeah, send out the Dark Troopers. I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this. All right. I will say, how did you feel about what they did have them do? Did you feel like they kind of like just kind of threw them in there? Because I feel like they kind of maybe like some stormtroopers or something could have just done that. Like they really just threw them out there to kind of grab the kid and then go back up. Like it was cool to see them, but they didn't actually do anything.
I think they sent them because obviously the stormtroopers failed and ran away.
Well, yeah.
So I don't think they could have done it really any other way. I don't think Gideon would put himself in that situation because it's like it's Boba Fett, the Mandalorian, and Fennec Shan.
Mm-hmm.
Probably knows the limitations, and I think he would rather just get the job done so he can move on. So
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from, but I think it was necessary to use them because I couldn't see any other way. And I think it's a good way to introduce them, and it's like a cool little moment, but I would them doing something really cool
Mm-hmm.
personally, but I don't mind it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like, it was cool that we got to see them. They didn't really do anything. They kind of grabbed the child and went up. And then I thought it was kind of funny that earlier in the episode, I don't know if you thought this line was weird, but I thought it was weird when I first heard it, and then I understood why they did it. When they were having a standoff, Fennec Shan was pointing at Grogu, and then Mando and Boba were pointing their guns at each other, and Mando was like, "Okay, we'll put our guns out at the same time." He's like, "You put your gun down." He's like, "Oh, only if you put your jetpack down." I'm like, "Why are you telling him to put his jetpack down?" I thought that was like the weirdest thing. I was like, "I told him to put his jetpack down, not like his gun." Like I guess a jetpack could be dangerous to you, but I feel like you want to put the gun down more than the jetpack. I don't know. But then when they grabbed the child and went up, and he couldn't fly after them because he had put his jetpack down, I was like, okay, that's why he put it down, because he kind of needed that. Because otherwise, he would have just chased them, right? But yeah, it was.
His jetpack?
Hmm?
What happened with his jetpack?
When they had that standoff, Fennec Shan was pointing at Grogu,
No,
and
I know
then
that, but you were saying it wasn't flying accurately or something.
no, he put it down on the ground because Boba Fett told him to. But I'm like, why did he tell him to put his jetpack down? It was like one of the only lines I thought was weird when I heard that. I was like, why did he ask him to put his jetpack down, not his gun? Like I didn't understand that. And I realize now is so they could set up so that he couldn't just chase after them when they flew off with him, because I'm like, wait, why didn't he just use his jetpack and fly after them? And I thought about it, I'm like, oh, because he put it down and it's still sitting by that rock. And I was like, ah, well, shit.
And that is one of those weird things where it's like, oh, we got to make this fit. So
Yeah, it's definitely one of those writing things where you're writing and you're fucking like 67 pages in, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I said back in this chapter that he needs to fucking do this. Oh, god damn it. Hold on. All right, let's just change this real quick. Yeah, so I feel that. I think that might have been what that was. They're like, shit, we need a reason. I mean, wouldn't he just fly off with his jetpack and go like grab it? So yeah, I'm like, I think that's probably why they did that. So they wouldn't have to have a whole air fight scene happen right there at that moment. But it's that's just a nitpick. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, I love Boba, and the moment when Boba Fett shows up again with like his armor, like
you couldn't have done it any better than that. Just wiping out a trooper and then he's there.
yeah, I love how they framed it too. How he landed behind. You're like, oh, Mando came and landed behind this one because they didn't say anything. We didn't see like him and Mando talk and go like, hey, yeah, the armor's in there. And it's very convenient that he went and got the armor right before the Razor Crest got blown up because although it probably would have survived because it's Beskar as well. But
the real tragedy was the Razor Crest blowing up.
yeah, I actually really like that ship. I really like that ship, that hunk of junk. Yeah, I was like, damn. So now they're gonna travel in like Slave One now, basically. That was gonna happen. Like, he's gonna get another ship.
I was like, they're gonna have to team up. They're not gonna just strand his ass on the thing.
Yeah. So then I thought that was interesting that they basically kind of like just right then and there kind of made them a crew. Because this whole time I was like, oh, he's gonna make a crew with Grief Karga and Cara Dune. But this I wasn't expecting. I'm like, what if that really is like his crew now for like the rest of the show? Like he's traveling with Boba Fett, Fennec Shan, Mayfield, yeah. Maybe they pick up that Twi'lek girl and they're all fucking chilling. Like, yeah, what's the? They give themselves a funny. That's what they need. They need a funny droid. I know they have the child who is like kind of fills that role, like the cute kind of side character role. But he's also gonna be like an extremely powerful Jedi. So I'm like, they need a cute droid. But I don't know if we get Ezra or um, possibly the guy from Jedi Fallen Order. Maybe we'll get one of those droids in live action. We get Chopper. What's it called?
BD1.
BD1. Yes, I love BD1.
Little puppy.
It's the most fucking useful droid in my opinion. Like the whole time I'm playing that game, I'm like, BD, BD, like please heal me.
Yeah. I came up with a droid for my fan film thing. I'll tell you what the name is, just so no one steals it. But later. But yeah, the one thing that I am a little bit worried about though is I'm glad Boba Fett's in this. They're not gonna be in it forever.
Yeah.
Because I love the Mando and I love the child. Those have been the two that have kept me in this the entire time. But if Boba Fett stayed, he could outshine the Mando in coolness because I think he did a little bit this episode for sure. And there is the rumor of a Boba Fett like series like taking place after Return of the Jedi. So I'm curious. I kind of hope that does happen because I do love this version of Boba Fett for sure. He won't be in the armor obviously because it's beforehand.
Old
But
rumors though, before the Mandalorian came out, or there's still rumors of that?
no, it's a new one that surfaced recently that there's been casting or something for it.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember I heard those rumors before the Mandalorian came out, and then it ended up being the Mandalorian. But I wouldn't doubt they still have that planned.
Yeah,
We might get some of the Mandalorian Civil War stuff. Who knows?
I'd be down for it. Or even if it's like a Jango Fett series, or like it follows Jango's perspective in the Mandalorian Civil War, I'd be down with that.
My only thing is, I think Tamara Morrison is really good for this role right now. I think he obviously looks older now, so I'm not sure how they would do that, because obviously when Jango Fett died, he was still maybe like, I don't know, 20s or 30s or something. So I don't know how they would do that now. If it was like Jango, because obviously he plays all these characters, so it's like, yeah, they're all modeled after him, unless he has a cousin or nephew or something that looks exactly like him. I don't know.
Unless it's one of those things, if before the war or during the war, if it was this is the way, like, helmet on thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's like they'd be able to get away with it.
I'd love to see him exploring, that kind of just that lore and why they kind of tie it to Mandalore the Great from like the old Republic's like times and shit, and how they even. I'm assuming that Mandalore's probably kept just all these records and stuff of like their history. But you almost wonder like how those factions kind of broke off, like the Children of the Watch from Death Watch and all this shit. So it's like, yeah, I'd love to see all that. I'm always down for more Mandalorian stuff. So we'll see. And I also find it interesting actually. So I know the armor, I believe she had the OG like Mandalorian symbol like above her thing, right? Where the armor was. Didn't she have the
Are you talking
Mandalorian?
mythosaur, the big?
Yeah, she had that. But I find it interesting that even with that, like Mando wears he has that like kind of the thing, like the rhino thingy that him and the child killed. Like he has that on his pauldrons
Yeah.
instead of like one of those symbols. So I'm almost like, I would like to know more about that. I'm like, do they have different symbols for like? Because I remember in terms of the Old Republic and like that, whatever it was called, they killed those things and they would like tame them and like ride them and all sorts of shit. And that's kind of why they use that symbol a lot, because they were so prominent on like the original planet they were on. So it's like, yeah, I just want to know more about that. It's like what it's still a question of what is a Mandalorian. I think that's even kind of the theme right now with Din Djarin himself, is what is a Mandalorian really? Like how do you differentiate that? So
That's why I wonder if they're gonna slow down at some point and kind of explain like what he's going through with that. But he's so focused on giving the child a home
mhm.
that it's like he seems like he still wants to give him away, but at the same time he doesn't. So I'm like, what is the end of this? I feel like they're gonna stick together. I don't think he gives up that kid.
Yeah, I think so. I really like the idea, and I showed you that kind of artwork that somebody had made. I
Yeah,
really
that
like the idea of Grogu growing up and becoming like a Mandalorian, but also being a part of the Jedi teachings. And there's an illustration that somebody made. If I could find it right now, I'd totally link them because that was really fucking great artwork. Where it was like him when he's older as a Jedi, like kind of crossing his legs and like meditating, but he has like Mando's pauldrons on, which makes sense. Like obviously he's gonna outlive him by a lot. So you think at one point he will probably like take his armor, like wear or like what do you call it, reforge it so that it fits him or something. Who knows? um I do like the idea that of him becoming a Mandalorian Jedi, and I think how that person drew it was like a really good way of representing it, because he's not gonna wear like a helmet and shit, like just the way that Yoda's race is. Like he's probably not gonna wear a helmet or anything.
did
But
look good.
yeah, I could see him wearing like the pauldrons, maybe like some armor or something. A little bit of callback to like the Clone Wars and like how they wore the armor. So that was cool. Um, Something I haven't talked about yet, which I really loved like so much, was the very beginning of that episode when they were in the ship going to Tython, and Mando's just like Grogu. It's like the way he was laughing. I'm just like, oh my god, like the little chuckles. Grogu. He was like so happy about it. I'm just like, they've been really good with those moments, like just him being like he's just being a father, man. Like I love that.
That's why I think those two aren't gonna split up, because it's like he loves that kid. He might not say it, but you can tell that he deeply cares about that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Even from the beginning, he went back because he knew it was wrong for him to be there.
Yeah.
I think they are going to end up together, and you're right, they have nailed those moments. And the only reason I even like the kid's name is because of the way that he says the name to the kid, and the kid responds so happily. So I think he's not going to be able to give him up, and I don't think Grogu will give it up. And that's the other thing we need to talk about too. We see him using the Force even more so, and still kind of being able to control it more. And when he's on that seeing rock, that was one of the coolest things. Is he's tapping into it again. You
Mm-hmm.
know that he has been trained for sure. You know that he can tap into it. And I knew that he was going to do it the moment that butterfly flew by.
Yeah. You,
Because
do you think butterflies for him? 'Cause I'm trying to think if there's another moment where there's a butterfly in this. But do you think butterflies for him might be like the Morai for Ahsoka, or the Loth wolves um for Ezra? Like I feel like some Jedi seem to have like just kind of like associated animals sometimes or something like that.
I don't know. What I do know about the Jedi, and so there's this newer book that came out. Well, it came out a little bit ago, but it was a short story with Luke traveling to find a Jedi temple. And this is, I think, after A New Hope or after Empire, and he's still learning about the Force. And he's trying to tap into the Force and go up against like those remotes to like fight them, like on a kind of like on the Falcon, how it's shooting at him. And
Mm-hmm.
he's struggling and he's struggling with it. And then he senses something, and it's a bug. And he channels the Force through that bug because the Force resides in all living things. When he channels that Force, he doesn't even realize it, but he, I guess, ended up going up against those remotes for like a few hours straight without even realizing it because he was so ingrained into the Force.
Hmm.
And I thought that was cool because he's sensing that and feeding off of that energy.
Yeah.
Butterfly flew by. I'm like, Grogu's about to do the same thing. And he did. And I think this is epic. And then worry and wonder, where is his mind at? Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously he is scared. Probably
Mm-hmm.
because he's so attached to Mando and being away from him, and he's just scared. He's frightened. He's giving into his fear, and he's destroying those stormtroopers.
Yeah. Yeah, he was fucking them up. And then, so at first, when I saw that scene and he was doing that, and Moff Gideon kind of went like, oh, hold on. Because I remember we speculated before. I was like, Moff Gideon, was he an Inquisitor? Was he any of this? I'm starting to think that he wasn't. Because at first, though, he was doing that because he kind of wanted the child to tap into his anger in like a Sith sort of way. But then afterwards, I realized he just was doing it because he knew that he would get tired the more that he did it. Because obviously he knew that from when they had him before. It's like, oh, you can. He's like, you've gotten better, but you still get too tired when you do it and all that. So at first, I thought he was maybe doing like a Sith thing where he's like, oh no, let his anger out. But now I'm starting to think that he's not like a Sith or anything, or an Inquisitor or anything like that. I think he has a dark saber, but we've seen people who don't have the Force that use the dark saber. So um, I'm starting to think he's not that. Um, and then in terms of the Seeing Stone, when he was on there, I saw a lot of people say this where they felt that Baby Yoda was showing like a way more emotion than he did before and everything. When he was on there, what do you think he was? Do you think he was maybe seeing those old memories that Ahsoka was talking about, or seeing that that Yoda always had visions of the future and stuff? Do you think maybe he was seeing something like that, or what if he saw something like with Mando? He like saw something like that, and I don't know.
And I think he was really just trying to use it to reach out and just meditate and think about everything. But it's possible. The one thing that I thought was really weird was Mando trying to still get the kid like 3 times, knowing that shit would force him back.
Hmm.
And I've never seen anything like that. And I was wondering, is it because Grogu's connection is so strong, or is Grogu pushing him away so he can concentrate?
I think it was just his connection was so strong, honestly. And I do feel like he also has he still lacks a level of control over his power. So I think that he kind of started doing that, and he was like locked into that, and there was that aura around him, and there really wasn't anything that he that he could do it, or he couldn't stop it until he was like done kind of tapping into it, and then obviously he passed out after that. So I don't think he had that much control over it, honestly, and he was just kind of tapped into it, and he was able to see whatever he was seeing. But yeah, I did think it was kind of funny. The Mando kept trying. I was like, dude, you obviously you can't get in there, man. I do also think it's because when you think about a lot of parents, and I mean this doesn't apply to all parents, of course, but a lot of parents will do anything to kind of to help their kid. You know, like they would move in front of a moving vehicle and like save you if they because something about being a parent kind of like does that to you. And I think that's happening to him where he's like, I know this isn't working, but I really need to get him out of here because this is not a good situation. And he just kept trying because he's like, I need to get him out of here. So I think that's honestly what it was. It's just he really just wanted to save him, and it just sucks that the minute he decides to like try something else and walk away is when he was done, and he just ended up leaving him there, and he's like, oh well, yeah.
No, I see what you mean by that. I'm just surprised how wiped out it made Mando, like being pushed back. Like it was surprising, like how much of a toll it took on him.
Hmm. And I think that's part of the reason what he's talking about. I think he understands that this kid is really powerful, and he does things that he can't understand, and he knows that like if the kid were to lose control in some way, I think he knows that he can't really do anything about it. Like he saw this kid pick up a huge fucking monster with his mind. I think he understands like, okay, it's like I don't know how to help this kid and like help him control this or help him learn how to use this. Like, so I think that's kind of in the back of his mind all the time. And I think that shows like when he was trying to do that, like how tired it made Mando. He's like, I think it's one of the things where he's just like, damn, like this kid's so strong. It's like Jack in the Incredibles. Like, have you
How do you
have,
take?
yeah, have you watched that kid?
No, it's crazy. And then the thing that I do like about Baby Yoda or Grogu that makes him, it's not like he's invulnerable. It kind of reminds me of like the theory or like the way that like a baby rattlesnake is. It can
Hmm.
either not control its venom and shoot the shit out of you with it,
Hmm.
or it can leave a dry bite. And in a way, Grogu's like the same because he's still young. He can't control it. Um, um, so it's one of those crazy things. But he gets tired. Reminds me also of like 11 from Stranger Things, where she gets wiped out when she uses her powers.
Hmm.
Um, which is one I'm glad that he does too, because you don't want him to be like like a Mary Sue character where like he's he's a child. He can't be you know indestructible.
Yeah,
But I'm
and
curious what will make him be able to actually control it, or if anyone's going to show him how to do that.
it does make you wonder. It's like, was it like this for Yoda when he? I mean, it probably was. And then, think about when Yoda was a child. I mean, that was a long time before all of this. So it's like And I guess that might be something we'll kind of explore in this like kind of High Republic stuff they're doing. Because I mean, around that time, what did they say? It's like 200 years or something before, like the Phantom Menace and all that, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be like what 700 or something. I don't know. So even like way before that, it's like you wonder what that was like and how he kind of got his training and all that stuff. Because yeah, we haven't gotten to see that. All we've seen is Yoda when he was older, Yaddle, who I'm assuming was also much older. Even in some of the video games where they've had people who were Yoda's race, they've always been older. So it's like, because I think it's a hard thing to explore because of how they age. So it's like I think that was the thing about this show that like just absolutely surprised me is that they had a baby of like Yoda's race in there, and I'm like, damn, that's such a hard thing to explore with the way they age and everything. Like, I think that's why they didn't touch it before, but we'll see what they do with it because it's definitely an interesting concept of how powerful can he be? How is he going to get trained? How is he going to mature? You know, when does he start speaking? Because obviously he does speak. He was speaking to Ahsoka through the Force, so it's like he just doesn't form words yet. So I don't know. We'll see.
I hope we get to hear him speak at some point.
What do you think he'll sound like? Think it sound similar to Yoda, or that'd be completely different?
I think completely different because he's still young. Yoda's old, so I mean, it's not gonna have the same strength of, or not even strength of voice, but like that gruff kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That's from being 800 and something years old.
You might. I guess that's what I. Do you think he'll have like the same kind of speech patterns and cadence and everything though? Like, do you
I
think
think,
he'll?
yeah, I think you just learn that from the people you're around. So I wouldn't think so.
You know, like with Yoda, because I feel like is Yoda the way he spoke is that like a product of, and then I wonder this a lot because we just don't know. There's so much we don't know about Yoda. Did Yoda come from whatever planet that he's from? Did he come from there when he was younger, and maybe they spoke a certain language, and the way that they speak it when he speaks in the this other dialect, maybe it's just backwards to him, but that's how to him, like, well, that's what sounds right to him because that's how his language goes or something. That there's so much to speculate on with that, but I just wonder if that maybe that's it, like, because you think about even when you translate things from like Chinese to English or Japanese to English or just different languages, even here things sound completely different when you translate them directly because they speak it differently there, and like it's ordered differently the way they say certain phrases or words. So I wonder if that might be it. I don't know if they would take the time to explain that in something. Who knows? So I wonder if the child growing around, since he's growing up around like Mando and all these people, if he'll just talk like them, like will he just randomly yell out, what's that, Dink Ferrick or whatever?
I got it. Yoda's master had a speech impediment.
See, that could be possible. And then he just thinks that was his normal for like, almost 100 years of him being a child or something, and he just picked it up.
And then everyone's like, man, the one thing we didn't want you to learn is to speak like a fucking moron.
Yeah, no. But yeah, that it would be interesting to explore that. I don't know if they would take the time to do that for sure, because it's such a like a small thing within there, but it would just be cool to see. That might be like a comic series or book kind of thing that they might do. I don't know. And maybe in the High Republic they'll talk about that. If they do, then I will gladly pick up whatever book or comic or whatever has that in there because I would like to know.
Or if like Yoda got hit by like a blaster bolt and like got some brain damage. Like, speak like this, I did not before.
Like, wouldn't that be interesting if like the High Republic came out and he was actually speaking like normal,
And like
like
Ellen,
in there?
Shakespearean person.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what's going on? and then like something did happen, like it just changed his whole speech pattern. Or maybe what if the last 200 years that Yoda's race lives, maybe they just live with some kind of weird form of like dementia or something, or like they live with this like kind of like they're like dyslexic, but instead of like with reading, it's just like with talking or something. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Who knows?
We're terrible people. Anyway, yeah. But going back to what you said about Gideon not also being an inquisitor, I'm kind of leaning that route now. But he said he was really, really good with it, so I'm still like, maybe he did just want to kind of play with Grogu and just like, let's see how this unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Gideon's strong enough. If he wanted to, he could have just messed with him, and I think he knows that.
Yeah, that's certainly if he's really powerful as well. I think he certainly knows that. Okay, this little child with his, sure, he's a powerful child, but his force abilities can't touch mine, so I'm not worried at all when I step into this room. That could be it. And I do feel kind of bad for like his little stormtroopers. Though he's like, oh yeah, just go ahead and kill him. It's fine.
But they did survive because weren't they standing up and walking away all injured afterward?
Yeah, I think he just threw him, like knocked them together. So they probably have like a concussion or something, possibly. At first I thought he was gonna choke him to death, but then he like threw them together. I was like, okay, it's all good. We would have had another Luke moment from Return of the Jedi. It's like, was he choking them? I don't know. I just feel bad for stormtroopers in general, to be honest. Like, they got some tough lives, man. And also, I was curious. I was thinking about this. These stormtroopers that we see here, do you think that these are just like the people that they recruited, or do you think there are still clones in there?
Oh, that's just all the people they recruited. They phased out clones a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Oh right, yeah. Because there was something where Palpatine said like his reasoning for changing from clones, right?
Yeah, and I think they didn't have enough genetic material to clone anymore, and they couldn't
Oh
find
yeah.
a cloner. And yeah, I think that's kind of what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll see a clone?
Hmm.
Do you think we'll see a clone? Because I kind of wonder.
I think it's possible that we could see Rex. Like,
I feel like he'd be nearly dead or dead though,
it's
unless
possible.
they found a way to stop his aging.
What if? I mean, probably not. But what if the chip has something to do with that? Like, what if that's like part of their programming or something,
I
and she
don't,
took it out?
because if it was that, I don't think he would have been as old looking as he was in Rebels.
Rebels is. I mean, how long after is that?
18 years, but I don't think you gray and get that old looking in that amount of,
Yeah, that's a good point.
because technically Rex would have been. It might be possible.
Yeah,
Might. But
I'm just holding out hope. It's unlikely because I mean, I'm not saying that he can't do it. I just don't know if they are going to do that, where they're gonna have to get to Martin Morrison. He's gonna have to play whoever the fuck else they bring in the live action. It's one thing when it's like you're just kind of animating all of them, like Clone Wars. It's another thing when you have to get this dude to play like literally every single one because they all look like him. So yeah, and obviously they could have like certain camera tricks or something where there could be somebody who looks similar to him from like behind or something, and they just like don't show him sometimes, and they like film the other stuff with him later, and then just put all that together. It's definitely very possible, but I doubt they would do it because that takes like be so much more. And like I said, with some of the things we've seen this season, like some of the environments or some of the costume choices, blah blah blah. I'm not sure if they're putting like the absolute maximum effort into like kind of these, or maybe like you said, they're saving that amount of work for something else, possibly.
What do you think the end of the season is going to be like? Because I feel like there has to be some fighting and engagement. But if they're planning another season, is there going to be a big showdown in season two?
I think it's like what we're talking about. I think there will be. I think the Republic forces, maybe like Bo-Katan and them, will come back. I don't think Ahsoka will come back for this. I think what we want, which we would want, would be Luke and like fucking Ezra and Ahsoka and everybody in Bo-Katan, and they're all fighting them. I don't think they're gonna do all that. It would be really fucking awesome if they did. Um, but yeah, I think it'll be like Mando and his ragtag group go to confront Gideon. He's probably got a couple of Star Destroyers or something with people that he's recruited from the like remnants of the Empire, and they're fighting them, and it seems like all's lost, and the Republic comes in and helps them. And I'm thinking probably not like the whole Republic. They don't quite believe them or something, so they don't send like a whole like huge fleet. But maybe Cara Dune goes to like those two guys, and she's like, "Listen, Mando needs help. We need to save, little Grogu." And maybe like those guys with like some, squadron ships and maybe like one like cruiser or something. They go and like help. Who knows? But I think it will end. I think it'll end on a battle of some kind. At least Mando fighting Gideon, I believe will happen because he got that spear for a reason, and it can fight people who use lightsabers. So yeah, and they made it a point when the Razor Crest got destroyed. They made it a point for him to find that spear and like, look, it survived this whole blast. Look how powerful the spear is. Like he's definitely gonna, I feel like, square off against Gideon at the end. He probably won't kill him or anything because, like I said, it looks like Giancarlo Esposito is going to be here at least for like another season.
Yeah, because I was looking that up right now because he says, I have a feeling you'll see more of me next season. More than likely, you're going to see a lot of Moff Gideon. I can't be sure of that, but it seems as though this iconic journey that they want you to feel it. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so how much of the story are we actually going to get by the end of this season?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think there will be a face-off, and Gideon will like escape or something, and then maybe we'll get a cliffhanger for the end of the season. Sure, we might get a couple cliffhangers. I think we might get a cliffhanger of either this is who Gideon's working under, or this person, Thrawn, Palpatine, whoever, reveals themselves to Gideon and they're like, so you really thought that you could be the leader of the Empire? Well, guess what? I'm still alive or something. I don't know. And then we might get a cliffhanger of like Luke or maybe Sabine and Ezra come in. Who knows? This, to me, feels like they're leaning more towards revealing maybe another Rebels or Clone Wars character from just all the things they've been revealing and like showing. Like they show the Loth Cat. That's a very random thing to show in episode 5. So I'm like, this is leaning towards me like there's gonna be, and I mean that might have been because of they revealed Grand Admiral Thrawn in there. But even the fact that they said Grand Admiral Thrawn has me thinking there's gonna be other Rebels reveals. So I think they leave us up on some cliffhangers.
Do you think we'll see Thrawn, or do you think Gideon knows who Thrawn is?
Yeah, I think he does. Like I said, I think Gideon is probably working on it. He's kind of the leader of his little faction of this remnants of the Empire, and he thinks that like Thrawn disappeared with Ezra like years before that, and then Palpatine obviously he everybody knows, I'm sure, that he got blown up with the Death Star and shit. So I think that he thinks that both of them are probably dead, and he's gonna take over now or restart the Empire or whatever. And I think that he will that'll kind of be his arc throughout here, as he thinks that that's what he was, and then maybe throughout season 3 he realized that he really isn't shit, and he's nothing compared to like Thrawn or Palpatine or whoever. So I don't know. We'll see.
Do you think we'll see Thrawn by the end of this? Because part of me wonders. I almost thought we were about to see Thrawn last episode when he was on board, that he was going to communicate with him. But I think Gideon, like I theorized earlier, I think he's probably just his own entity. He's just using the Empire for his own personal gain.
Yeah.
And I think Thrawn is probably going to be the one. Maybe he sends him a communication where he basically challenges him or something, or it's like, you thought the Empire was your personal. I'll show you the Empire.
And that's the thing. They don't even have to like show us him right now. They could send a fucking. They could have him send them like a message or whatever, like a comm, and we hear his voice, and it's like, oh shit, like, that's all we would really fucking need right there at the end,
You think we'll get Mads Mikkelsen? Do you think we're gonna get somebody else playing him?
Mads Mikkelsen or his brother?
I mean Lars Mikkelsen. Sorry.
Because I mean, I'll take Mads Mikkelsen too, but I know he already played the character in Star Wars. I know, but honestly, I don't see why not. I don't see why we couldn't. Like I see a lot of people questioning that, but I'm like, look at Lars Mikkelsen. He looks like, put some blue makeup on. Like, he totally looks like he can play that character.
I think the only thing, I love Thrawn's voice, but I wonder how well that voice would translate to live action, because it sounds good coming out of a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then I remember we talked about this. Like, it sounds a little bit like cartoonishly kind of villain, but I also think that's a product of him being on Rebels. Rebels, like we always say, it was always more of the kids show kind of thing. So I kind of take how the voices and the likenesses of every character in there. I kind of take them with a little bit of a grain of salt, because we know that they're not really going to be like that in, like, say, Clone Wars or in the live action. So they're not going to deliver their lines the same. Obviously, they have a little bit more free reign in the Mandalorian to be a little bit more. I wouldn't say adult. Like, it's not really adult, but like they can be a little bit more out there and gritty with their lines and like what they can say and what they can do, as we've seen in the Mandalorian. So I think when you do something like Rebels, you kind of have to make the lines a little, a little easy to digest for kids.
Someone said that in one of the posters for Celebration, when they did the live action version of Thrawn, they made him look a lot like Pierce Brosnan. And some of the Ahsoka artwork that's come out before we knew it was Rosario looked like Rosario.
Pierce Brosnan. I mean, I don't have a problem with Pierce Brosnan.
I think it depends on what version they're going of him too, because
you know what I do think about a lot, and I feel like this is kind of what Thrawn might be. There's that really old, I'm thinking like really old, but I don't remember if it was a graphic novel or a comic or a book, but it's like Thrawn with like the really long hair, and he's been through some shit. I forgot what that was, but I think it was either on a cover or something. Maybe it was concept art for them. But he had like really long hair, and he looked kind of a little disheveled.
Oh, that was the comic adaptation of the first Thrawn book.
Okay, yeah. I could see Pierce Brosnan like being that, because I feel like Lars Mikkelsen would be kind of the more clean cut, like, working within the Empire kind of. If he's been like stranded with Ezra some like crazy ass place somewhere, I could see Thrawn being a little bit more, more out there, a little more wild. In which case, I think Pierce Brosnan would probably be pretty good for that.
The only thing I had, like, I looked up Pierce or Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn, and he looks all right in the makeup, and I would be okay with his casting. And I love what he does in Rebels, and I love that voice, but I don't know if it would fit a live action version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about with Ashley. Like she could have been in like the outfit and everything, but it just wouldn't fit. And like I feel that um I, my only thing I think about when I think of Lars when I was like looking it up and everything is maybe like physically not quite, like I feel like he's tall, but I almost feel like I don't know. When I look at Thrawn, and it's hard because all we've really seen is like the anime and there's like the illustrations and like drawings that we've seen for like comic books or books and shit. But I do feel like he's a pretty imposing figure, and that's why I'm like I would be fine with Mads Mikkelsen if he wasn't already, because I feel like Mads Mikkelsen a little bit more kind of has that.
Imposing figure.
He has that look, yeah. So, but you know what? If they put the work in with the way that he looks, I think because okay, if you think
Or I
about the
think
movie,
Fassbender is Thrawn too.
I can see that too. That would be cool.
I think he's
Uh,
a top choice.
my only thing about Fassbender, and I don't mean to talk about anybody, is like height. Like, I don't think height matters that much, but
Because you can
he's a little
pick
bit close. I mean, they could do a Tom Cruise thing. Tom Cruise has made a fucking career out of being like 5'3", and they made him look like he's like 6 foot all the fucking time. So they could do that. Um, but yeah, that I don't know. When I think about that, I do think about like Bill Skarsgård as it. No, when I look at Bill Skarsgård, he's not very, to me, he's not like very imposing or like, he
it
wouldn't
says
be.
Fassbender is 6 foot tall.
Oh, is he? I thought maybe I was thinking of somebody else. I thought he was like 5'8". I don't know why. But yeah, think about Bill Skarsgård, and to me, like when you look at him, he's not like that imposing or like scary or anything. But when they make him into it, like how what they did with all the he was wearing and everything, like it works. So I don't know. They could possibly do something like with that with Lars, but it does seem like I was talking about with Luke and everything. It seems like they're kind of going with, I wouldn't say like newer talent, but just like different talent for like this live action stuff. Like, other than like when they bring back, Tamara Morrison or see, that's what makes it confusing though, right? Because they go with Rosario Dawson for Ahsoka, and I think we all knew Ahsoka was gonna, if Ahsoka's in there, she's gonna be played by somebody else, like obviously, because they're gonna try to find somebody that look like Ahsoka, blah blah blah. But then they bring in Katie Sackhoff, who played Bo-Katan, and I mean she looks like Bo-Katan, so it makes sense. And they bring in Tamara Morrison, of course, because he's always been Jango Fett, Boba Fett, all the clones, etc. So you almost wonder like what are they gonna do with Luke? What are they gonna do with Thrawn? What are they gonna do with Sabine? He talked about maybe Sabine, the voice actress, could play her, but she doesn't quite look like that. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough to say. I think Lars could do it, but I would understand if they went with somebody else.
One thing that I wish they would just do is get people that look like them that aren't well known and just have the voiceover do a Sam Witwer Ray Park thing.
That'd be cool. But this is Disney, and they're gonna go for a big actor. I just had that feeling. It's gonna be fucking Mark Ruffalo. Watch. I'm kidding.
Maybe they don't. Excuse me. They don't need to do that. They just need to get the look of it and the sound right, and then you could put that money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like it's Star Wars. Like think about it. The first one did amazingly, and no one knew who the fuck most of those people were, except for Alec Guinness and
And
Peter
that's kind of always been Star Wars like thing.
Daisy Ridley, John Boyega.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, sequel trilogies weren't as good as people thought, but I think a lot of people still really love Force Awakens. I still I still see people putting that like in their top 4, top 5, like Star Wars movies, whatever, you
Mhm.
know. And I think people like those characters. I think they like the actors and actresses. And I think that's the only thing that I felt with Mandalorian. I mean, even look at Solo. They had a lot of like kind of different people, like new people in there. So Rogue One, there's a lot of people I hadn't seen in movies before who were in Rogue One, and I loved like loved almost all of them. So uh, it's my only thing about Mandalorian. I wish they would have a few more kind of like newer actors. I do like that they're giving some of the voice actors who hadn't been on the big screen kind of like a little bit more like shine. But then I also know that Katie Sackhoff has done a lot of she's done a lot of live action stuff, like a lot of live action acting and shit, and a lot of action stuff. Like she was in Chronicles of Riddick and all that shit. So it's like she's does a lot of that. So I get that. Um, yeah, I would like to see Mandalorian or whatever show they whatever other shows they do. I'd like to see him have more kind of unknown talent. That'd be cool.
Yeah, because it's also cool to see the journey of the actors along with the characters. Like Luke in the first one is a lot different than, or Luke in A New Hope compared to Luke in Return of the Jedi, vastly different.
Yep. Yeah.
Even Leia, like she's standoffish and like is willing to kick butt in the first one, but she is definitely more in control and centered and knows really even more so who she is. And then same thing with Han.
Mhm.
Um, all three of them are really fairly unknown, and they grew into something beyond themselves. So I think that speaks a lot to George's foresight in his casting, and then also just the ability of all three of them. So I think if you took more risks and chances like that on people, you end up with something truly great.
Yeah, and I will say that I think also because John Favreau is the one doing this, he does tend to a lot of times work with kind of bigger stars. I feel like in a lot of his projects when I
Yeah.
think about them. So I think that's also the other thing. I think John Favreau usually kind of leans that way, um, which is fair. I mean, he's John Favreau. He knows a lot of people. Like, you know, I think if it was Dave Filoni doing it, like without him, there would probably be a bunch of like unknown people. And I think that also just kind of lends to how they are as like filmmakers and like how they do things. I think that I wouldn't see Dave Filoni being the one who's like, oh, I'm gonna call Michael B. Jordan and fucking like by Robert Downey Jr. and be like, hey guys, you want to be? I just wouldn't see Dave Filoni doing that. He'd probably just go find people who were like, yeah, you kind of look like them. He'd probably be like you, like in the store, and you found like an actor for your thing, just like, hey, you look like a character that I'm writing. Come here, That's what I feel like Dave Filoni would do. So,
And that's what
uh,
I.
yeah. But John Favreau, he has a lot of connections. Then, I mean, he's getting good actors and actresses on there. Obviously, a lot of them are also people who have already worked within some sort of Disney, Marvel, whatever kind of property. Because I've seen a lot of people from Agents of Shield and shit in this show. So, and they do that a lot with TV shows in general, especially when it's within like a same network or whatever. There's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you worked in this one show, come work on this one, and that's kind of the nature of TV shows. So it doesn't
Yeah.
surprise
And I think if you're working under the same umbrella of Disney and all of those that they have available, it's just easier. It's
me.
just like movies like pick music for whatever. It's like if it's a or if it's a, let me think of a better example. Like if it's a Universal film, they'll probably pick more out of the Universal Music Group's catalog because
Yeah,
it's easier to work with them on price, or maybe they already have.
yeah, they have the rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm like, I just really feel I really feel they're gonna take somebody who they already have either in Disney or Marvel or whatever that they've worked with and use that person. And you know, somebody I actually just thought of who might be pretty good, Luke Evans. Maybe.
As who?
Maybe as like Thrawn or something. I don't know if he's the right age. He might need to be a little bit older. But I do feel like he has. Do feel like he has like the physicality. I don't know, because I actually kind of liked him as Gaston in that Beauty and the Beast shit. But I think he can play a bad guy.
I would like to see him as like an Imperial warmonger, but I don't know. Let me see if there's anyone that's mocked him at this Thrawn real quick.
Probably not.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, I say probably not, but this is the internet. Everybody's been shipped and mocked and whatever into something somewhere.
Nah, I don't see it.
I'm just thinking of people who are already like, we're probably gonna get fucking what's his name? Josh Gad's gonna be in there as fucking stormtrooper number.
The one that can fit into the armor.
Like, bro, if I see Josh Gad in fucking Star Wars, I will lose my mind. I'm sorry.
I don't know if he's gonna be in it. Like it's just a voice or a cameo that you don't see his face.
I'd be fine with that.
Because to see his face in Star Wars would take me out of it.
Yeah, that'd be very weird. It's like, hey guys, I'm here for the first day of stormtrooper training.
Unless he was like a prisoner or something.
I think if they gave him a bunch of like just makeup and like all this crazy shit, yeah, I can see that. Or give him like make him an alien, like they did with Simon Pegg. Because obviously, if I saw Simon Pegg in a Star Wars movie, that'd be weird. But him as Uncle Plunk, Uncle Plot, is that what it is? Him as that. That was actually that was fine.
That was cool. I don't know Simon Pegg all that well, so it wouldn't. I would think he would actually be a really cool Imperial like general or military leader. Like I could see that being really cool.
I know Simon Pegg. I don't like I said that when we're talking about the Edgar Wright movies. I'm sorry, we'll wrap this up soon. But some of those Edgar Wright movies that he was in. So I just very used to seeing him in like comedy roles and shit. And sometimes people like that just throw me off when I see them in like either something more serious. I mean, he could still be like funny. Obviously, in Star Wars, we have that. We had plenty of that, but um, I guess it depends on the person. It's like if I saw Chris Rock or somebody in Star Wars, that'd be funny. That'd be funny. Like
I hate. I'm like wait.
I hate stormtroopers. If you don't come over here,
The fucking stormtroopers can't do shit.
but you know what? We've had Samuel Jackson, in there, so I can't even. And that's the other thing that makes me think that they will bring Mace Windu back.
Why?
Is because he's already been in fucking every Marvel movie. Like, hey, might as well throw him in Star Wars again. You know?
It has to fit the story. I can
Yeah,
see
it does. But they'll find a way. Let's be real.
I don't know if I mentioned it last time, and this will be one of my last thoughts, is I would like to see if he's coming back, it would be interesting if there's multiple Jedi fighting over whether or not they should train Grogu. Because it would be interesting to see Mace Windu have a change of heart and be like, I should have been more caring and accepting and understanding of Anakin, and I failed there. I think we should do the same. It would be interesting if that's his point of view. A fight amongst the other Jedi that are like, I don't think we should train him. I don't think we should. And he's like, no, we can train the boy. However, it will take time and patience. Like, if he did that, I think it would do wonders for the character to know he's alive and willing to take that on.
Here's the thing, though. If he was still alive, do you think he would feel that way after Anakin cut off his arm and he got shot by lightning down into the streets of Coruscant? Like, I don't
I think
know.
so because I think he would realize if he still had time to meditate about being a Jedi and what it meant, I think he would realize his stubbornness played a part in that downfall.
Yeah, yeah. Like not willing to make Anakin a master and all that. Yeah.
Because if he would have been more accepting of him and more understanding and willing to befriend the kid versus always being like how critical of what he was when he was such a young person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, take that as a kid. It's like it's kind of emotional abuse. Like you're berating
and,
the kid.
and it would make for some great moments. Like maybe him talking to Mando or something about how he messed up before, and he's like, don't do the same with this kid that I did with a kid that I knew. So I do kind of like the fact that they, with Ahsoka's episode, that they alluded to Anakin, but she didn't right out say it because we know what she was talking about. So I kind of like when they do that. And I feel like maybe Mace Windu would have the same kind of thing where he's like, "There's a kid that I didn't, do the right thing before, and it led to disaster." So yeah, who knows? Because could you imagine if Mace Windu would have just taken Anakin under his wing? Mace Windu was arguably the best lightsaber duelist, and then he takes Anakin under his wing. Like, could you imagine how powerful Anakin would like than he already was? I'm just
Yeah, and learning that saber form where you slightly tap into the dark side.
yeah.
You know, maybe if that would have happened, maybe that could have been a way for him to learn to control those
Mm-hmm.
urges by being able to slightly tap into it versus just kind of. I think that's the thing where it's like moderation is key
Mm-hmm.
for some people. It would have been an interesting way of trying to maybe go about it.
And like we talked about, if we ever see that like a what if series, I'd love to see that. Maybe there's, and I know you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say right now, but what if there's like a what if series where Darth Maul won, he killed both Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but then they got Anakin away, and then Mace Windu's the one who's training him, and he does teach Anakin kind of that, and then Anakin becomes like the most like powerful Jedi, and he's like working under like Yoda and Mace Windu, and he never like turns because he's like motivated by like, oh, he killed Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, like my two. I don't know.
No, I don't hate that. I think that's actually cool, but I think I would have it. I don't think you kill both of them. I think you just kill Obi-Wan
Not really Obi-Wan in that situation.
because
Yeah, because yeah.
why teach him.
Do you? I mean, okay, this is just my last thought. And I know this isn't about the Mandalorian anymore right now, but do you think that do you think Obi-Wan really played a part in that, or do you think that no matter what, like Anakin was gonna turn? Like, do you think that if he was trained by somebody else, do you think that maybe Obi-Wan wasn't ready when he took him under his wing? Like,
I think it's part of it. I think Obi-Wan did the good, but I think it's just like what Yoda said, all masters fail eventually, and I think Anakin chose his path. He chose to let all of it consume him, and I think the biggest thing was I think it was really Palpatine.
hmm,
I think all of that influence and grooming him since he was a young kid, manipulating him. I think Obi-Wan was fair and tough when he needed to be. I think there was some shortcomings for sure, but ultimately it was Palpatine. And also, I don't think Obi-Wan played too much a role into the Jedi's downfall. I think it's more Mace Windu and even Yoda to a degree, but I
yeah.
think the other masters more so than Obi-Wan.
Do
Is
you think
Obi-Wan to push back against some of that stuff?
in this Obi-Wan series, do you think that maybe that's something they'll explore? That maybe he's blaming himself almost
Oh,
still?
I would definitely say so.
Yeah. That'll definitely be interesting to see. And I think that lends to that whole how you think that this series could be like Logan almost, but with Obi-Wan, where he's kind of this like he's older now, he's real downtrodden about like I failed Anakin, like this kind of shit. He's kind of like down on himself, I don't know, going to that bar, and fucking Mos Eisley. uh,
I
yeah,
can
that
see him saying, or remembering, and you hear the clips. I have failed you. I have failed you.
Hmm.
Oh, my brother Anakin, I loved you. Like I can imagine him hearing all of that, and
That
we
was
see
a very heartbreaking moment. I will say that, like him just recalling that.
and holding the lightsaber.
Yeah, yeah, he did take it, didn't he? Yeah.
He gave it
Hmm.
to Luke. It makes me wonder if we're going to see him repair it into what he gives Luke, because there is a difference between the two sabers.
Hmm.
And I think we might even see him repair his own, because there might be some lava damage or something to it,
Yeah.
because it is different by comparison.
Hmm.
But it could be just one of those time things, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him messing or tinkering with the saber.
That'd be cool to see. Yeah, and it'd be one of those things where they kind of fill in one of the kind of like continuity things that we've seen in Star Wars that they kind of like Rogue One filled in a couple of those. I think even I mean not really Solo because it wasn't really a needed story, but I guess they kind of filled in the Kessel Run. I guess kind of. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, but this episode of Mandalorian probably the best. Yeah, so far. You think of both seasons?
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, that shit was fucking great. That's how you introduce a little character like that. It was so good.
But that'll do it for us today on Jabbering Jawas. May the force be with you guys.
Always.